talk about.
It's quite poor. Hello and welcome, my name is Ian and this channel is all about music and art, and in this series of videos we've been looking at what is happening regarding the music streaming in the UK. The UK Government's Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee have been looking into the ways that streaming platforms and large record companies manage payments to songwriters, musicians and performers. And on the 15th of October 2020, Parliament published a news article stating that the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee were going to inquire into the impact of the streaming on the future of the music industry. This article stated that the inquiry would consider whether the government should take action to protect the industry from piracy in the wake of steps taken by the EU on copyright and intellectual property rights. Now, I knew that some high-profile musicians and music industry types were going to be giving evidence to the committee. And the first of these meetings was on the 24th of November 2020. And it continued through December into January and February of this year, 2021. Now, these were long meetings lasting over 3 hours. So what I've done is I've edited them all down into shorter videos, and you can find a link to all the previous meeting videos in the description down below. I've also created an introduction for each section, and if you want to, you can skip straight past those bits to the questions by clicking on the timestamps. Again, all of this stuff is in the description. So in this video we'll look at the third session from the 10th of February 2021, and I thought it was worth providing a short background to the witnesses giving evidence in this session. First we have Steve Bené, who is General Counsel at Twitch, Raoul Chatterjee, Vice President of Content Partnerships at Soundcloud, and Katherine, Oyama, Director Government Affairs and Public Policy at YouTube. So Steve Bené from Twitch oversees all aspects of the company's legal strategy, operations and compliance, including those related to corporate governance, securities, commercial transaction, privacy, litigation and intellectual properties. Prior to joining Twitch, he worked at Pandora and before that served as General Counsel at Electronic Arts. Next we have Raoul Chatterjee, who is SoundCloud's Vice President for Content Partnerships based in London, where he works to secure innovative, on-demand streaming license agreements with major and independent labels, publishers and collection societies. He also worked for Warner Brothers UK and was Head of Digital at leading independent Ministry of Sound. Katherine Oyama is Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy for YouTube. She manages policy for copyright, trademark music licenses, online creativity and intermediate liability, and from 2009 to 2011 she worked at the White House as Associate Counsel and Deputy Counsel to Vice President Joe Biden. Prior to her government service, Katherine was in litigation, and before that she worked at a New York-based strategy consultant firm and a Washington-based public interest research organisation. So here is part 2 of session 3 from the 10th of February 2021 into the economics of music streaming.
Thank you. John Nicholson.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. Could I just pursue that for a moment, Katie? I'm interested in finding out what happens if, for example, somebody uploads some music that they don't own the copyright to, and then they make money from it, and you're alerted to that. How does the person who's entitled to get the money end up getting the money back that's been wrongly allocated to somebody else?
I mean, I think generally because Content ID is at upload, that would be very rare. I think on the specific question you're asking, I'd have to follow up with you on writing on if there is a dispute and there has already been monetization. So I'm happy to follow up with you on that in writing. But
you think that's a relatively unusual thing?
Yeah.
It is. We're asking everybody this who appears before the committee. What particular challenges do you think there is for musicians and for composers at the moment with the streaming model? And how do you think this committee could recommend the best possible reforms that would drive more money into the musicians and composers' pockets?
I'm happy to start. I think it's such, of course, an important question. Obviously, the most songwriters or artists that we know today are working across a number of platforms and are also incorporating live. And we recognize, that's just challenging to be that spread across. I think one area where we've seen concern raised throughout your inquiry, and we hear it ourselves in the industry, is this lack of transparency, or the need to have more transparency. I know, the UK IPO office had kickstarted an effort, a paper around 2025 and modernization, but I'd say from our side, from the services side, the lack of a comprehensive database about ownership adds a lot of complexity, because in the music space, as you know, you can have 4 songwriters sitting around one night. They develop a song. There's nothing in copyright law that says they have to record it at that time. And we, on our platform, truly want to know. We want to know who to pay. We want to know how to split it up. For a 90-second song, we often are having to divide that across maybe 14 different entities and different rights holders. So I think both on this ownership side, I think having more transparency into ownership, and then obviously on the payout side, we're sending the majority of revenue out. If you're an artist who's working directly with us, you would see in our artist analytics a lot of data about how your works are performing, what your ad rates are, what the total revenue is. But I have heard throughout this inquiry a real call for more transparency about what happens to the dollar, as it works through the system and works through a number of different entities. I think that would be only fair that there's more transparency there. And I'd say on the business side, a piece that we've been looking at continuously is how do we diversify revenue streams, especially, this last year, there has been an even bigger shift to digital because of the immense hardships in the live industry. So we've been spending a lot of our time thinking about, are there other ways we can think about how to attract users to pay more for this service? We've been looking at live streams. So in the last couple of months, we've had live stream concerts where artists, Blackpink is a good example, they just sold tickets to a live concert on YouTube. They sold out about 20x the capacity of the O2 Arena for one concert. I think Niall Horan did one recently in the UK as well from Royal Albert Hall, where he had about 150,000 customers at maybe $20 each, where he was able to do that. So diversifying, looking at, can we monetize live streams more? A lot of artists are turning to their channels to sell their own merchandise or even their own vinyl records. Some are experimenting with memberships on their channels. So I think more opportunities like that.
That's interesting. And so when a concert like that takes place, what percentage of the money do you get and what percentage does the artist get?
It should be around the 70-30. It's the majority goes out to the artists. Of course, hosting those is also expensive and a complex system of licensing. So we do, have a share, but the majority goes back out to the artist or the rights holder of that content.
Okay. Can I ask you the same question, Raoul? Exactly that. What can be done, do you think, having listened to so much of the evidence that we've heard, to give a fairer and better deal for artists?
I've been watching the sessions with great interest. It's been very interesting to see how many different things have come up. There's clearly a lot that is causing difficulties for the artist community. There's been such a volume of submissions, powerful submissions, and anyone watching, whether you're involved in the industry or not, knows that being an artist in these times when the main source of being able to perform in front of your fans is taken away from you is incredibly challenging and difficult. So, but it's complex. So there's so many different issues that have come up. I think streaming should be defined as streaming. I don't think we should be looking to try and apply old business models to what is now the dominant format. I think we should be looking at how we can consider more equitable ways to allocate the royalties to the artist. That is something that could come up, and it's come up, it has come up, but could be investigated further. I don't think the answers have been given on these sessions, but whether they warrant further investigation, I think there's a good cause to do that. And the songwriters piece, it's come up a lot on the previous session. There are incredible challenges around data for songwriters. If we can fix the challenges around data, so the DSPs, the platforms like ours, can have great data to work with, to provide to the collection societies and the publishers so they can actually collect and pay out in full, that would eradicate a lot of problems. There's a huge time lag as well on the publishing side. We can pay out to record companies and distributors, at the end of the month, we can put money in their banks. When it comes to the publishing side, it takes many, many months, even years in many occasions, for the songwriters to get paid because of the lag in being able to process billions of rows of data and be able to collect completely. So from my perspective, there isn't one thing, but there are many things that we should all be doing to improve the situation for the creators and the artists.
Would you agree with Graham Davis of the Irish Academy from the last session when he came out with what I thought was a memorable phrase when he said, song value has been suppressed?
It's hard to understand and agree with that when, as you heard from Rupert from Beggars on the previous session, the value of the song for the dominant format, or the proportion of the payment for the songwriters and the composers, has pretty much gone up 50%. It was about 8% of wholesale in the CD era, and now we're talking about 15% of retail. And
wait, the maximum, didn't he?
Actually, I don't agree with that point either, because I work in an area where we operate a fully interactive, on-demand, ad-supported service, and we pay out more than 15% to the songwriters. So not everyone has one of those. Not many companies can afford to run one of those services. Soundcloud is very proud of what we do, but we also, we operate a business that's been growing and improving, but it's hard to make money in this business. If you look at our company accounts, we still run at a loss. So we're certainly not generating excessive profits and margins and paying excessive salaries in order to be in this business.
How do you keep going if you run at a loss?
Thankfully, we have great support from our investors.
Right. How much of a loss do you run at?
Our company accounts from 2019 are public, so you can take a look. Feel free to do so. I think it was about 16% in 2019, and it has come down over the years.
Are you predicting breaking even?
Yeah, I'd like to think we'll be breaking even pretty soon. I think we announced recently that we have had some quarters where we've broken even. So things are moving in the right direction.
And a loss of 16%, what kind of figures are we talking about? What does that mean in money?
Well, we turned over in that year 147 million euros.
Right. Okay. Could I go back to you, Katie, because we've heard a lot about Spotify in the course of this inquiry, and Spotify's subscription prices haven't increased for a decade. Why do you think that is?
That's hard to speculate on their business. I guess I would give them credit that they have smart people looking at the overall economics, and that they're also motivated to kind of grow the business as a whole. I think we are. And there might be an assumption that if you increase the subscription price, the output would only be a growth. But it's also possible, as we've seen, not every user can pay a subscription. Not every user is ready today to pay a subscription or willing. And so I'm sure that they're looking at, given how competitive the market is, what is the right price point to run the business.
But you're competing, aren't you, because you're offering a premium service now yourself?
Exactly.
So I guess you're watching very closely what Spotify are doing and charging. What will you be charging for the equivalent service? Spotify is $9.99.
I believe that our price is the equivalent. So we have a premium model where it's music and other content, and we have just the music subscription, which I believe is also $9.99, and that is the license service that we entered probably only a few years ago, but we're already at 30 million paid subscribers, so that's exciting to us. And our goal obviously is to continue to drive more and more subscription into that funnel. Yeah. All
right, before I hand back to the chair, and because I'm a journalist by profession, I'm going to ask you a human interest question. You worked in the White House, didn't you, for President Biden when he was vice president? That's right, for then Vice President Biden. Yeah. Has he good musical taste? He does. He's wonderful. And I think he has a very broad and eclectic, he has a lot of grandkids that keep him updated on modern music. He also, of course, loves Irish music, and he has excellent taste. Again, close relationships, as you probably know, with the music industry. Yeah, because I do a radio show on a Sunday, and when he was inaugurated, I played his choice of music. Not that he phoned me up directly and told me, but Billboard magazine had collated from various interviews what his choice of music is, and the people who supported him and the music that he played at rallies. So it's certainly eclectic. He likes Harry Styles. And Coldplay, Adele, and Bruce Springsteen. So there's something for everybody. I wonder if he did any kind of image consultancy in order to come up with that list. Maybe we can encourage them to release a playlist, a summer playlist or something like that. I think they do that actually, as a matter of course. We have a program called Desert Island Discs here. I'm a big fan. I love it too. And politicians, you can tell whether they're being entirely truthful about their musical choices or whether or not Gordon Brown famously chose the Arctic Monkeys. He's the least Arctic Monkeys politician you've ever met in your life. Can I hand back to the chair, please?
Yeah, thank you, John. And on the subject of excellent musical taste, Steve Brine.
And I would just like to point out that after the Poison, Celine Dion, and Today Take That bombshell, I could never be accused of making anything up for credibility purposes. But Katherine, thank you for your evidence. Interesting insight there into the Biden White House. You're quite a lot of talk in your evidence about the Foundry program. Seems interesting to me. How many artists, like because Dua Lipa and Dave were mentioned in their written evidence, how many artists does the Foundry program support then? What actually does that support look like?
So Foundry is a program, one of our just bigger strategies is to kind of work with young people and the industry as they're interested in music along their career. So we start kind of earlier with music education, Belfast, Manchester, Bristol, working with schools. Foundry comes in more when someone's already expressed the interest to be an artist kind of full time. It's a program, I believe it has maybe 10 to 15 participants every year. So Dua Lipa was in that initial class, she had maybe 1,500 subscribers.
She was a user, yes? She was a user of the platform.
Yeah, and she's now been the first UK female to hit a billion views on a single video. She's won Brit Awards, Grammys, you name it. Dave was, I think, possibly in the second class. I know he's talked quite a bit about the importance of YouTube to his career from the very beginning. So it is a smaller program. The idea is to kind of really work and cultivate. And we, I think just yesterday, launched another annual program with the Music Managers Forum, where we're working on with that side of the industry, again, with managers who they generally kind of are at the tipping point of their career. So they're working maybe another job, but they also want to do management full-time for artists. And it's an extensive program. So Foundry is critical. I think we've seen huge successes come out of that program, but it is one of many.
Artists coming into Foundry, so new artists coming into it, that is all obviously available for us to see for our growing playlist, which Mr. Brennan likes to keep an eye on. Do you receive any benefits for your support for these artists then? So, preferential licensing agreements, for instance, as a result of nurturing talent, wouldn't be unreasonable for you to do so.
I think so. On the licensing side, of course, artists can always choose to be on the platform or not. I do think the benefit to us is that, we do cultivate a true personal relationship, and we're just much better able to serve the individual artists once we understand what their goals are, or we understand kind of their genre of music. So it is absolutely mutually beneficial, but it's not transactional, I guess, if that's.
Yeah, no, okay, that does answer the question. Just while I've got you, we were talking to the BPI earlier, and you mentioned the $12 billion that to rights holders as of January last year. You mentioned that at the start of your evidence, and you say that you'll be the industry's main source of revenue in 5 years' time. The BPI has said that trajectory does not suggest that that is the case. Tell me why that's wrong.
Yeah, I honestly was surprised and a bit disappointed by the testimony that I heard. Frankly, it does not reflect at all the individual relationships that we have with the individual members of the BPI. I think Lear Cohen runs our global music business. Dan Chalmers is leading UK. I think they'd both say that the relationships that they have with the UK music industry has never been better. I'd say the numbers that I've seen, in 2019, we sent $3 billion to the music industry. We don't yet have our 2020 numbers done, but it's been growing every year. So we have no reason to think it has not grown quite significantly last year. Spotify, the last press release I saw for them for Q4 of last year, so 2020, is that they're sending $1 billion per quarter to all rights holders. So music, I'm sure, is a significant portion, but also podcasts and others. So, I mean, if you just look at that data, we are close and we're absolutely want to get there, want to be the best partner possible to the industry. If we make money, artists make money. I mean, I think our interests are very aligned, and that's where we want to be. We want to grow the business. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Time is short, so hand back to you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just on that point, Katie, how can you say you want to be the best partner possible when you pay 0.05 pence for every song, whereas Spotify pay a penny?
That's just not a metric I've ever seen, so I can't confirm the metric. I think on the subscription side, the business models work very similarly. They're on par. I think on the ad side, there's it's an ad share.
Forgive me, Katie, but you were watching the first session. Are you telling me that they were untruthful, or what is your explanation for why does you pay a 20th of what Spotify do?
I think there's a couple of things happening. So some of the testimony is what artists are seeing in their ultimate payouts, and we see what we're sending to representatives. So we're seeing what we send to the labels or publishers. We do work directly with some artists, and then they would see all of it in their analytics. But there are many artists who choose for good reasons to be represented. And so I think one piece that's happening is we're not seeing exactly what's happening from the payout to what the artist is seeing. And I think that's a big reason why we're calling for additional transparency. I think the other piece is on the ad side, the enormous opportunity is it's totally blown open the music industry. It's given artists an ability to upload. They don't need to live in London. They don't need to know specific people in the industry. We have models again and again where artists have uploaded and become successful, but they're reaching a global audience. And so the ad rates do differ. If you're in a developing economy or you're in North America or you're in the UK, the rates will differ. At the end of the day, they're getting the majority.
Forgive me, but we heard evidence from the Musicians Union said that actually they thought because of the economics of music streaming, that actually they were finding that the demographic profile of those who were actually taking up being a musician had actually become more narrow. I mean, he mentioned, in fact, that many were from public school. And that's public school in a British sense, not an American sense, of course.
I would quite like to come in on that one because that's not something
I'm adjusting my question to Katie, actually. It's on another matter. Now, in terms of what you've just stated there, you did skirt around the issue in terms of the amount of money that YouTube pays for playing music on your platform or your streaming service. You've been talked about as the number one streaming service. 0.05 pence, is that figure right or wrong?
It does not sound right to me.
Okay, well,
but
what
again,
does sound
it
right?
fluctuates based on where the ads are happening.
What does it fluctuate between?
The thing is it's a majority of the revenue. Any ad revenue or subscription revenue, the consistent piece is the majority of that revenue goes out to the music right holder.
What does it fluctuate between?
It will fluctuate based on are we talking about the subscription side,
numbers? So basically, I'll just so I'm very clear here. So I'm very clear for you. They have said that it's 0.05 pence. Okay. Now you have said that is not correct. What I'd like to know is what area, effectively, of a pence? So is it like 0.1 pence? Is it 0.2 pence? Is it 0.2 to 0.5 pence? Or is it less than that? What is the banding for paying out when music is played to your platform?
And I'm sorry, but we don't have a per stream rate like that. It's an ad share.
It's quite ironic, is it not, that you complain that they've got lack of transparency, and obviously you've honed in on that as one of the area that we've looked at. But yet you're not being transparent with this committee. We don't know how much.
Artists can see in their own dashboard. They see where their views are coming from. They see the ad rates, and they see the amount that's being paid out. What we don't know is if they're represented by another entity. As YouTube, we don't have visibility into what happens to that royalty after it leaves the platform.
Yeah, but I'd have thought you'd come before this committee and you'd actually know how much you pay artists when you use their content on your platform, when it's uploaded by users. This seems to be astounding that you don't actually know the level, or is it, can we read into this that you do not want to say? Because frankly, it would expose the fact that you are making an absolute fortune from other people's work. At the start of this session, I looked at where I asked the BPI, I think it was, what is the risk and reward here? And they stated that the risk and reward effectively for YouTube compared to artists and compared to the record labels is completely out of kilter. Do you recognise that fact?
Because we're sharing revenue, if we make any money, the majority of the revenue is going out to the music industry. So respectfully, I do think that it is a partnership.
So the majority of the revenue that you're paying per stream, effectively, is going out to the music industry. But the total you're paying is minuscule in comparison to Spotify. If you were paying the same as they were, for instance, then you wouldn't be giving $1 billion a quarter to the music industry. I think, was it 3 billion a year last year? You wouldn't be giving that. You'd be giving many multiples of that, would you not?
So all the evidence I've seen is that we are on par with those other services, including Spotify that you mentioned.
In terms of total, but not in terms... Sorry, Katie, in terms of total, you are, yes. But not in terms of the amount of money that you are paying out per stream.
Even on that analysis, although it's not a metric that we rely on, the research that I've seen that it does analyze that has had us absolutely on par with them.
Not a metric you rely on, that's because it's really inconvenient in that respect. I mean, isn't the truth of the matter, frankly, that you are... I mean, we find this across the whole piece. I mean, you are effectively in front of a committee that deals with YouTube and Google on a regular basis. You're an enormous company. I mean, you are literally almost a state unto yourself in many respects. You are absolutely enormous. And isn't this another example of where you are just so big and that where you are making such huge profits that effectively you are dampening down an entire industry? You are becoming effectively the sort of almost like I don't know how to put it, like gangmaster, but you are sort of like a huge entity, and you are taking huge sums of money out of the creative sectors, and yet you are effectively having a hand-to-mouth. They are having to have a hand-to-mouth existence with yourselves. It's true for journalism, and it's true for music streaming, is it not?
I don't think that's the case. I think that we have seen artists, Stormzy is a great example, unsigned on the platform for many years, now a global success. I think we're seeing YouTube being used as a platform for creativity from the music industry, from many UK-based creators. We're so excited to work with them. And when they upload to YouTube, they're reaching a global audience. They have the opportunity to be discovered, to build their business, to hire others for their team. We're seeing success stories like that again and again. It is... Why is everyone
pointing the finger at you then? Because every time there's an English phrase, it's your ears must be burning is the phrase that we use. Why is it you think that throughout the entire first two panels, they wanted to rubbish YouTube and the amount of money that they actually give to the music industry for the streams, and they feel as if, frankly, you're gaining profit and they're not getting a share of it? What do you think that is?
It's a very fair question. I mean, I've heard different things about YouTube throughout. I think of the beggar's testimony was mentioned earlier. I think maybe part of what was happening in the first panel today was a little bit of a distraction to alleviate hard questions about their own industry, frankly. And it is true that not every artist is having the same experience. We would love for every artist on YouTube to receive a Brit Award and be successful. We know that that's not the case. What our job is to empower as many artists as possible who have creativity, who have access to broadband to get a chance. And I do think that there has been a lack maybe of some other voices as part of this process. We'd be so happy to recommend some who can share some best practices about things that they're doing. The Royal Opera House is actually a good example. So not just these kind of modern artists, but there's many traditional institutions across the country who are posting backstage content, who are trying to reach a younger audience, who have themselves amassed 1 million subscribers. I do think there's tremendous value in what we offer. It's unique, it's different. It doesn't necessarily fit the model that maybe you've heard from some of the other services, but from the partnerships that we have, including many indie labels in the UK, including the major labels, I do think the partnerships are in a better state and that folks are more hopeful about what the next few years look like than we've ever seen them be before.
I have to say that the Royal Opera House doesn't really generally have to worry about making ends meet, in my experience. Katherine Oyama, thank you very much for your evidence today. Raoul Chatterjee, thank you as well, and also Steve Bené, thank you very much. It's been most illuminating. That brings our session to a close. Order, order.
Is currently suspended.
So thanks so much for watching. The next video we will be looking at the sessions from the 23rd of February, whereby the witnesses will be Paul Firth, Director of International Music at Amazon, Horatio Gazzari, Head of Global Affairs and Chief Legal Officer at Spotify, Elena Siegel, Global Seniors Director of Music Publishing at Apple. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. All the best now. Bye bye.